Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 210 of the MTG Goldfish podcast. It's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and we have the full crew here this week, starting off with the owner of MTG Goldfish, Richard. How's it going today, Richard?
Hey, Seth. What's going on?
Not much. Ready to talk some Magic. And we also have, joining us today, back into the realm of healthiness, I hope, after last week when you were feeling not too good. Krim, how you doing, Krim?
Well, my voice is back, so I gotta be pretty happy.
That's good news. Losing your voice. Oh man, I never really cared until I started doing content, but it's like the worst thing that can happen to you if you do content for a living, because even if you, like, sometimes you get these sicknesses where you feel pretty good, but you just can't talk well, and it totally ruins doing content. So I feel your pain when it comes to losing your voice. It is the worst.
It was. It's super awkward, and I was just like really quiet the whole time, and like I was like writing notes essentially to my roommates, like, oh, I don't really want to talk, just keep handing me hot water and lemon.
Should have made content with like a vocalizer thing, just like a robot voice.
I don't know why.
We've tried that with some of our accidentally sometimes, and people have not been a fan of the robot voice episodes of the podcast.
Robo Seth. I'm down with it. That actually is a good idea.
So this week, it's kind of a quiet-ish week in the Magic world. We don't have any like huge announcements. We've had some like announcements, like some product being announced in February and stuff like that, but kind of a quiet week in the Magic world. So we are going to talk some Modern. There was a Modern GP, I think, that happened yesterday. And then we also want to talk a little bit about Commander. We play Commander every week on Commander Clash, sometimes outside of Commander Clash, but we don't give Commander much love on the podcast. So Modern, Commander, fishmail is the plan for today. But before we jump into it, a reminder that our show today is brought to you by spikesacademy.com, the world's first Magic the Gathering e-learning academy. They have some really cool courses from really great players like Pauler Vito, Dama DeRosa, and Reed Duke. You can join the academy over at spikesacademy.com and even get 10% off with the code GOLDFISH. And to learn more, check out spikes_academy on Twitter. So thank you to them for their support. With that out of the way, let's talk a little bit about Modern. So we had a GP in Toronto this past weekend. We didn't really get to see it because of the coverage changes. So what happened in Toronto? What are your thoughts on that event?
So I mean, we had I believe. Okay, I want to verify this. I don't want to say random deck one, but.
I believe it was Grixis Death Shadow that actually came in first,
right,
at the tournament. Yeah.
So yeah, we didn't have any coverage, but we were able to, like, video coverage at least. But we did find out that like it was like Grixis Death Shadow versus Tezzerator, quote unquote. For the finals.
Okay. Let me stop you for a second. It's not Tezzerator. I don't know why they're calling this deck Tezzerator. It doesn't have any Tezzerets in the main deck. There's a couple of Tezzerets in the sideboard, which sure, that's fine, but you can't be a Tezzerator deck without Tezzeret. It's Artifact Prison, Word Prison, whatever you want to call it, but I don't know who's naming these decks, but someone is stretching it a little bit with the name of this deck, I think.
Channel Fireball. They're trying to sell cards now. This is what happens, Watsy. Actually, I'm curious. Did they actually write... Like, they must change their name, right? Like, you register with a deck name, obviously. But I'm pretty sure, like, half the people just write, like, random gibberish in there, and it's not, you know, the standard name. So my guess is, like, Watsy and now Channel Fireball actually fixed the name into something coherent. And they've decided to call it Tezzerator, Seth. So you should send them an email about how having a Planeswalker in your sideboard does not name the deck. Otherwise, this could have been Spellskite Artifacts. That could have been the name of this deck. There are more Spellskites than Tezzerets in this deck.
Not only that, but I'm looking at the top 8 decks. Fourth place, or in the top 4, is It Drakes. In the top 8 is It Phoenix. They both have 4 Phoenixes and 2 Crackling Drakes, and almost exactly the same card. Why is one named Is It Drakes and one named Is It Phoenix? It's essentially the same
maybe
deck.
It is what's on the deck reg list then. One pilot decided the Phoenix was the star, and the other one was like, no, Drake is the best.
They should have just named them both Tezzerator.
There should be Is It Thing in the Ice somewhere in there too.
First off, Tezzerator is real. I think it's fine. It's in the 75. It's in the 75. It counts.
They should have called the Is It Drake's deck, Is It Pyromancer? Because it's got one young Pyromancer in the sideboard. And then we wouldn't have any confusion.
I mean, there's Terramander. You know what? One is more Is It Drake's, right? Because it has Terramander. That's a Drake, right?
that is.
All right, I guess it's got to.
In their defense,
Trim has cracked it.
Well, naming conventions aside, what do we learn about Modern from this tournament? This is the first tournament without KCI being part of the format, KCI being banned a couple weeks ago, at least the first big tournament. What is your impression of this top 8 list? That's all we really have. We don't have a big top 64 or anything like that. Has the banning of KCI really shaken up and changed the format? Are we seeing different decks that weren't good enough with KCI around being good enough? Or is it kind of the same thing without KCI in the mix?
Well, I think right now, for the most part, I think the reason why we don't see any KCIs is just because people were forced not to play it, right? So there's a lot, it's like a weird, like, forced diversity kind of thing on the top 8 here. But
that's how bannings work, yeah.
Yeah, that's how bannings work. It's just like, I don't know, man. I don't think any of these decks really were all that much different with or without KCI. Like Phoenix didn't. I guess you could. I mean, Phoenix is still here, so the meta looks. I guess Titan Shift is really popular. I've been playing against a lot of it, and the artifact deck may just be, well, quote unquote Tezzerator. Like, I don't know, that's just the way it seems so far, right? Like at least when also like playing on Moto.
Yeah, I mean, we see a lot of the same stuff. I will say we do have 2 very fair decks, in the top 8 with a green-black mid-range. I guess, technically, I think they're both green-black mid-range. One is Jund, but it's actually not Jund.
It's Fulminator's naming the main deck now because Fulminator has a red symbol in it.
Hybrid red and Fulminator makes it Jund
is that
now.
real? No,
they're both black-green mid-range, but the last one is called Jund for some reason because...
But I think, before we get derailed on deck names again and just spend the whole podcast talking about how Modern decks are named, I don't know if this was a deck that would have had success with KCI around. I think this is the kind of deck where you're not feeling very good. Your clock isn't fast enough to race KCI. And yeah, you got Inquisitions and Thought Seizes, which is nice, but you don't really have the I win sideboard cards either against KCI, or the best sideboard cards against KCI. So I think maybe like a little bit we see these fair decks having more of a shot than they would have while KCI was still in the format.
Yeah. I mean, like the green, black, the Golgari, splash whatever color you want them to be now, is like a deck that does benefit from that. Were there any other mid-range decks though that were kind of held back from KCI though? I mean,
you might be able to argue that Death Shadow might fall into that camp. I guess it depends on what you consider Death Shadow, but that's another deck that is, you got Stubborn Denials and Thought Seizes, but you're not particularly disruptive, and while you can kill pretty quickly, you're not gonna race a turn 3 combo kill very often. So I think maybe, that Death Shadow is on the rise again. We saw it win the whole tournament when it wasn't unplayable when KCI was around, but I think it kinda took a little bit of a backseat to some of the more degenerate, unfair decks.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely still remember like Death Shadow winning, I think was it GP Portland, and that had KCI in it. Like, so Shadow's still playable. Maybe there's just going to be more Shadow players now. Cause there's no broken, like, I think the combo, right, as of right now is, Amulet Titan. I think that's about it, right? I mean,
Amulet Titan's kind of on the top, and I don't know. I almost think of the Phoenix decks as like pseudo combo decks, but your combo's just like getting a bunch of Phoenixes in the graveyard and casting gut shots.
Like Phoenixes is like the new Splinter Twin.
Phoenix or Drakes, though. So I mean, there's the difference between that.
those Terramanders. The other thing about Modern is we didn't really see any new decks take off. There have been some rumblings. We've seen Magic Online results with Prime Speaker Vanifar doing good. We've seen like various Electro Dominance decks putting up some wins on Magic Online. A Shaman's deck 5-0'd on Magic Online. So we've seen some Ravnica Allegiance influenced spicy decks in digital, but none of those actually made it to the top 8 at least of the this event or the classic, as far as I can tell either. It's pretty much all the old guard deck. So I don't know. Do you think, does this mean those decks don't have a chance? Or is it just, it takes a while for people to figure out decks in a format like Modern, and maybe 6 months from now, someone will actually break Vanafear or Electro Dominance or Shaman or whatever?
I think it's going to take some time. I mean, like what KCI was actually just around forever.
Yeah.
And then eventually it just like, it like people learned how to play the deck, like at least efficiently, and then decided to take it to tournaments then. So it took a little bit of time. I mean, but there was the, like, just, you know, side note, there was the Boros Soldier deck that went undefeated day one of GP Toronto. And there was also I think it was Blue Red Taking Turns, piloted by Daniel Wong also.
I think he's the, like, triple sleeve guy.
Quadruple sleeve?
Quad sleeve?
Quad sleeve.
Why do you?
I'm sorry. I underestimated.
How do you even
the number
quad
of Daniel
sleeve?
sleeves.
And why do you need to quad sleeve?
It's not even like that. I could understand if you're playing a $30,000 vintage deck, maybe, but it's just like a bunch of time walks in Modern. Like, how far do you need to go to protect that deck?
Is he playing like the actual hard case protectors? Like what do you call them? So you have like an inner sleeve, a normal sleeve, a character guard sleeve, and then he puts that all into like an actual ultra pro.
I don't think you can shuffle the hard sleeve.
I don't think it's where does the
sleeves.
quad sleeve come from? Is it like a giant penny protector? Like how
I think there's actually like a deck tech with him from Channel Fireball. And that is something that I think only he can answer.
He just sits down. Is like, is that a triple sleeve commander deck? He's like, no.
If I sat across that, I would think my opponent's playing Battle of the Wits before they're quad sleeved.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's what it is.
It is.
You sit down, you're like, Battle of the Wits. Come on, dude.
I mean, honestly, if I could, cause like, there's the sleeves with like the chibi collection of Planeswalkers, and I really enjoy that artwork. And I thought about it. Cause that would make me triple sleeve. I would have the perfect fit, the chibi sleeves, and then the sleeve to go over that to preserve the art. But then I was like, I'll just spend like $10 again and buy these packs.
Yeah. I feel like you would remove the inner sleeve to make your deck shuffleable. What I want to do is actually just show up with no sleeves.
No
Like, what are you
sleeve
playing?
Modern deck
Jund.
riffle shuffle.
All foiled out Jund. Coverage will love me. No glare.
Oh, I would actually just concede to you because I don't think I'd want to deal with the heartache of watching you like peel the corners of your Tarmogoyf skin off.
That's the other thing. Like, what happens when you have to shuffle your opponent's deck? You might get a lot of concessions where people don't want to mash together your sleeveless
I am sure
cards.
people will not care. You think people would be nice? They're like, hey, if you show up without a sleeve deck, I'm shuffling it. And they're going to like hard rifle shuffle it and everything.
I mean, they can try, but I think when you have quad sleeves, like you can just like pour a bottle of water on it at this point.
So any other Modern stuff before we jump over and talk about some Commander? Any final thoughts on this weekend, post KCI, Modern, anything at all?
It's time to get out of this spiky talk and into filthy casual category.
It's Richard's time to shine.
I'm not even
Filthy
joking. I'm
casual
like, you guys
time
talking
here
about
on the
Modern,
podcast.
and I'm like rolling my eyes, and I'm like, Boros soldiers. Like, show me some 8-drops.
Show me.
All right. Well, let's talk about some 8-drops for Richard. So, we're going to talk some Commander, and we've never really had a Commander episode before. So, Richard, why don't you guide us through this? I'm not exactly sure what the plan is, so why don't you guide us through some Commander talk, you filthy casual, you.
All right. We're gonna do the spiky Commander talk. Makes no sense. Okay, we're just gonna rifle off some questions and see where we go. And this will be interesting. I think I know most of Seth's answers for these, but Krim, I don't know. So we're gonna find out. What is the best color in Commander?
Blue.
Yeah, it's definitely blue.
100% blue.
You guys are both wrong. It's green. Green.
Oh, I didn't know
Really?
there was a right and
You
wrong
really
answer.
like blue?
There's no green skeletons, Richard. I'm disappointed in that answer.
I actually think blue is probably the least played color for me on Commander Clash, like period, over all the seasons.
I think for me, I don't like mono blue decks that much, but I really like decks that are blue with another color or two, because blue gives you just so many good card advantage engines that you don't get in other colors. So my favorite decks are blue with at least one and maybe two other colors attached.
I mean, you don't like Ristic Studies and all that stuff on its own? Like, I think that's good enough. What is it, that one Commander Clash episode where I had to learn how to play stacks and whatnot in like the 3 minutes I had? I enjoyed that mono blue deck, but funny that you say that, specifically monocolored decks. Right now I have this like pet deck that I kind of want to work on, and it's like just Ixidor from Onslaught, and I just want to play nothing but morphs and just play the guessing
Morphs are
game.
sweet.
Right? Like, it's like, oh, well, what's underneath that card? I don't know. It could be anything.
Are there enough blue morphs to actually make a mono blue morph deck?
Yeah, I mean, in between cons and like the random things, like plus also you'll be reoccurring some of that stuff. Like you'll get like what's the big thingy that turns everything up back down again? It's like Ixidron.
Ixidron
Yeah.
or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, like Ixidron can turn it back down, and then we have Thousand Winds to like bounce everything back that's face up, so you get to play them again. So
That sounds pretty fun.
yeah, it's just like it kind of is a counter spell deck, I guess. But you have like Evacuation also returning everything. Like blue gives you so many good cards in that, right? We have Cyclonic Rift, which is, I never understood why Cyclonic Rift was so expensive until I played EDH. And then I understood. It feels the absolute best thing. Like, it's the best thing in the world when you bounce everything, including, that's right, those mana rocks, all of it. Take it back to your hand. And then you do some wheel effect.
Should Cyclonic Rift be banned?
No. Please no.
You're such a blue player, Krim.
Like, come on. Like Seth said it himself, right?
Do you see why people would think it should be banned? So I personally don't think it should be banned, but I understand the argument that people set forth. But if you cast it, you pretty much win the game, or you're heavily advantaged. But I feel like there are many other cards in Commander where it holds the same, and you can argue that this is an instant, but I'm like, whatever. If you resolve like any primordial, you're probably gonna win. If you resolve a Rise of the Dark Realms or whatever, like, you're probably gonna win if you resolve any of this stuff. So Cyclonic Rift, I think, is kind of the same. Except you might actually have a chance of rebuilding because it's 3 people rebuilding against you after you've rifted. So I don't think it's that bad. And I think blue actually needs a way to bounce all these creatures that's not some terrible like 5 or 6 mana sorcery.
Yeah. Blue needs help with enchantments and like artifacts. So what are you going to do?
The problem is blue gets so many good counter spells that it's hard for me to be sympathetic of blue decks, because you can answer everything. You just have to leave your mana up. And that's one of the reasons I don't really like mono blue decks personally is, while they're good and they're pretty fun to play, I don't think they're all that fun, like, for the table in Commander. I think, like, the few games I've had where it's been like, oh, I have Forbid and I counter everyone's thing and we do this for 10 turns, like, I just don't think they're actually all that enjoyable as games of Commander. So that's kind of my reasoning for not liking mono blue. So personally, I would rather see Cyclonic Rift banned. I think it is true that there's a lot of 7 mana cards that win the game, but I don't know. I've lost to Cyclonic Rift too many times. It's so easy because it's instant speed and you do it right before your turn and you get to rebuild first or leave up all your mana to counter things. And I think it's a little bit too good.
It's a huge draw to blue though, right? Like, I think you like that and like Evacuation. So, I don't know. That's like removing, I feel like that at that point, then like how like blue becomes so bad. Like I mean, well, it's not like unplayable, but it would just be so weak without Cyclonic Rift. That's like a staple.
So you're telling me you only play blue for Cyclonic Rift?
I'm not going to lie to you.
It's mediocre. It's like your bomb. The rest is just like
yeah. I'm not going to lie to you. A little bit. All right. Yeah, a little bit. I mean, you know, like as I said, I love going Cyclonic Rift at the end of the table, or like to the whole table, and then presenting them with something like Whispering Madness, and then like a wheel effect, and it's like, this is wonderful.
But you don't even need to wheel after. Like a Rift alone is devastating enough, right? Like you don't even need a wheel. Like
yeah, but I want to. But I want to. Richard. I want to. I want to do it all. It's EDH, Richard. Let me have all my fun.
All right, Seth brought up a point here about blue having counter spells. And I actually think you should play basically no counter spells in Commander. That they're like one of the worst cards you play. And you need to have a couple to like threaten people with. But in general, you should not play counter spells. What do you guys think about that?
I agree.
I think counter spells are the biggest reason to play a blue deck, especially if we discount Cyclonic Rift.
Hence, I don't play blue decks because I think counter spells are bad.
I mean, there's very few like in Commander, there is a lot of value in being able to answer anything. We see cards like Utter End are really powerful in Commander because they kill anything. And that flexibility is really important because in Commander you have powerful artifacts and enchantments, and any permanent type essentially has cards that can just win the game if it stays on the battlefield. I feel like a card like Counterspell is basically the blue version of that. Yes, it requires you to leave up mana, but that flexibility is so valuable in a format like Commander.
So let me walk that back for a second. So I feel like if you're using the counter spell to protect your win, it's good. So if you're a combo deck or something, or, someone's trying to remove your threat and you counter it, that's fine. But for you to remove someone else's threat, I think that's bad because it's a 1-for-1 and there's 3 other players at the table. So you're like losing out on that. And then you also had to hold up mana, which means you weren't progressing your game. So the reason I like Utter End is like you can let the threat come down, and if it doesn't kill you all, you can deal with it at an opportune time as opposed to just forever holding up, double blue or something to stop some threat coming down, right?
I'm 100% with Richard on that one. And I love counter spells. I love counter spells. but I just don't want to be playing a bunch of like 1-for-1s and hoping that I have enough mana to like counter everything, because that is not going to feel great. But at the same time, I think decks like mono blue need counter spells and Cyclonic Rift because of that exact reason. Something will eventually slip through the cracks, and you need a way to deal with it.
I will come around to the point that counter spells are worse in Commander than other formats. I'll go that far because it is true that in a 4-player Commander game, you just can't stop everything with counter spells. We saw in 1v1 Commander, Brawl was bannably good because you just play Brawl and literally counter everything your opponent does for the rest of the game, and it was a very unbeatable strategy. But in a 4-player Commander game, that doesn't really work, because even if you do that to one player, you have 2 other players that are going to be resolving their spells. So I think it is true that counter spells are worse in Commander, but I still like them as a way to answer anything, and as Richard said, to protect your win condition or combo or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the non-counter spells, like Teferi's Protection. like you need stuff to prevent you from dying to combos. So like Crows and Grip, things like that, where you can interrupt a combo if it's actually going to kill you, but it's not, obviously a counterspell works no matter what, unless they have a Cavern of Souls or the spell one, which I forgot the name of. But I don't know. I like, Boseiju. I like Crows and Grip. I like Teferi's Protection and things, because once in a while someone will try to kill you with a combo, and you need to make sure you're ready for that, right? But then it's like holding up the single white for Swords to Plowshares. Like, you probably don't have it, but, just in case, you got to hold it there, and people will hesitate because you might actually have it this one time and it'll get blown out. So that's what I think the role of counterspells is. Just look like you have a counterspell, but like never counterspell anything. And then when you do, make sure it cantrips. Make sure it's one of those counter spells that cantrips itself.
Sit there with a smug grin and you've got like 3 islands.
Yeah, everyone's like playing creatures and then you're holding your counter spells and you're like, come at me, bro. And then 6 turns later, you're still holding that 3 mana and you're like feeling really sad.
Yep.
Okay, land destruction. Yay or nay? Mass land destruction. Armageddon.
I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of mass land destruction. I'm okay with it in certain circumstances, in certain decks. I don't have a blanket rule that you should never play it, but I think that it's bad form to play mass land destruction unless it's sort of part of like a combo to win you the game. I think commander games are really unfun when someone just blows up everyone's lands and no one does anything for a bunch of turns and everyone's hoping to like top deck lands to rebuild. I don't think those games are really all that enjoyable. So if it's part of something that's going to win you the game within a turn or two, I can accept it, but just blowing up everyone's lands because you can do it, I don't think that's very fun commander gameplay.
I'm all for it. I'm all for it. I mean, I guess like there's like within reason, right? Like mass land destruction, how are you doing it, right? If I'm going like Kamal Fist of Krosa and like Goblin Sharpshooter, that's pretty funny, right? But but if I'm going, I don't know, just Armageddon, it's like, well, that's kind of boring. I don't know. I mean, you just blew up all my lands without you doing anything that cool or flashy. If you're doing it with a lot of style and pizzazz, all that stuff, and blowing up my lands, I'm all for it. Please do it.
If you Kamal and then Pestilence or something, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm pretty much done that already on Commander Clash. So I think that is fine. But I used to be more of the spike attitude, right? When you Armageddon, like deal with it. Like it's a game, someone did something, and then it goes on, right? And especially in 1v1, like I don't care. In 1v1, if I get Blood Moon or Armageddon or whatever and I lose, that's like fine. So I've changed over time as I've become a filthy casual. So right? It's you show up, especially for Commander Clash. It feels really bad. Like you spent like all week building your deck, okay? And like you figured out this cool thing you want to try, or there's this new pet card you want to try. And then someone Armageddons you and you do nothing the entire time. But you don't get to play your weird, crappy combo. Feels really bad, right? So I feel like we shouldn't do those things anymore because it kind of takes away from the having fun part. And, you know, from a spike perspective, it's fine. But now that I'm a filthy casual, I'm like, nah, that's not cool. You shouldn't run like 4 mana Armageddon. Like if you want to do a combo into a land kill or into like a Baron Glory kill or something, okay, that's pretty cool. But I think like Seth said, if you Armageddon and win right away, that's fine because you can just go to game 2. Or game 3 or whatever. But if you Armageddon and then just sit around with like no plan, right? That's terrible. It's like the stasis lock, like the prison that like no one can win through. And you sit there for like 3 hours, wet noodle fight. That's like bad.
Because I mean, for me, I think Commander, my general philosophy is, unlike other forms of Magic where it's about winning, for me, Commander is about everyone at the table having fun. Like that, for me personally, that's way more important than winning. So I feel like, that's how I want to build decks in a way that is in some ways altruistic, so everyone has a good time. Because I think that's the reason you play Commander, is to like have fun with some of your friends, and winning is sort of like, it's fine, but it's sort of secondary. So that's kind of my philosophy on the format in general, and I think land destruction sort of goes against that for me. Mass land destruction.
I'll put you on the spot, Seth. So why does this only apply to Commander and not when you play Standard or Modern? Why is it fine to Delver into Mana Leak, into Spell Pierce, into Snapcaster Mana Leak, into, you know, why is that fine in Modern but not in Commander?
Because I think that it's just that that those formats are about winning. I think your primary goal when you play a game of Standard or Modern or whatever, your goal is to win the game, and whatever means necessary within the rules to win the game is what you should be doing. Basically like spikes versus casuals, essentially. But for me, Commander is a casual format, and it's more about the relationships and the interaction in that aspect of it. So I feel like things that are acceptable and even desirable in other formats are bad form in Commander in specific because of that.
Yeah. I agree with that. It's like, I think Commander kind of captures what we love from, like, I guess the social aspect of Magic. Like, why I love Magic, like playing in a random tournament and meeting new people and just like kind of having a good time playing, you know, with some cards that you probably like and stuff like that. So like, that's how I view Commander. So I agree with Seth on that one. And like, whereas like in Standard, I mean, I guess some would say that some of the decks that I play aren't really all that different. I just jam a bunch of jank and see what happens. But, like, I think that in Standard and Modern and other formats, I'm more like, I'm prioritizing winning more than I am like everyone having fun.
Yeah, I think I'm starting to come around. I don't know. Like, I share Seth's view, and I've shared Seth's view for like 5 years or whatever since we've started this, right? Where when you play these 1v1 formats, you're trying to win. But I feel like maybe that doesn't make any sense. Maybe that's why casual players hate us, right? Like, you net deckers and stop countering and stop blood mooning me. Like, maybe they're just trying to have fun, and here we are destroying them. We're like, well, sorry, dude, it's 1v1. Like, what do you want to do, right? Like, maybe that's bad. And maybe part of it is like the way we do events. Like at FNM, you're incentivized to win, right? Like, you are paired with other people with your record, and there's like a promo or something that you can win, and then there's prizes for doing well, and it incentivizes winning. Whereas when you win a game of Commander, like, you get nothing, so it doesn't matter anyway. So, you know, I'm not going to Armageddon you or counter all your stuff. So, but yeah, like, if you, like, I can imagine if you show up to a friend's house and it's like super casual and they're like, yeah, I have some Magic cards. And then they whip out their challenger deck, and you're like, well, I'm playing to win, guys. And you whip out your tier 1 deck. That's bad news, right? So I don't know. Maybe we should be more casual and just play to have fun, and not just us having fun, but with our opponent in mind. So you can play a bunch of janky cards, but if your janky card is Nicol Bolas and up to Nicol Bolas is all counter spells, like, your opponent's not going to have any fun, right?
Hey, I think you're just like giving out my deck list.
I'm starting to see this like 5 mana land destruction and like 3 mana counter spells that WotC's going towards, because it's kind of catering to the casual crowd that wants to play 1v1.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Although I think a lot of it comes down to the way you play Magic. I would feel the same way if I was going to just play a fun game of 1v1 at a friend's house on the kitchen table. I would feel the same way as I do about Commander for the most part. On the other hand, if you're playing tournaments on Magic Online or playing in a GP or even at FNM, like you said, the incentive is to win the game. And so I don't know. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's more about knowing the context of who you're playing with and what you're playing, and in basing your gameplay and deck selection on the context of where that game is taking place. At least that's how it is for me. Because I love blood mooning people. There's nothing I like more than making someone not play a game of Modern. That I live for that when it comes to playing Modern. So it's probably like paradoxical or whatever, but I don't know. For me, I'm perfectly comfortable with having those two different aspects of my gameplay, where I love making someone not play Magic, but then switch gears to Commander or a casual game and want everyone to have fun.
Yeah, I'm like, I want, like, FNM is, like, without FNM being as competitive, or I mean, I guess with the incentive to win at FNMs, I probably would have not gotten into competitive play, like, growing up. So I don't know, I like that FNM kind of incentivizes you to win. So this way I can, like, bring my random deck or whatever, or see how my deck fares against the other deck. So I think that's a cool way to do that. But I also am like Seth, and I find the thrill in just like counterspelling my opponent until they don't get to play anything. and then when you uptick, I don't know, let's just in this case say Teferi, uptick a Teferi and untap my lands and tell you I got more.
Krim is a different kind of evil. He likes his opponent playing, but knowing that they cannot make any progress, but they must be locked together for the next 15 minutes as he girdles around trying to assemble a win con.
Look, I've always been a believer that blue, like, control-based decks are always the most, like, you know, they're the most social. Like, cause you're gonna sit there for a long time. You're not gonna do anything, and neither am I, cause I can't kill you yet. So let's hang out.
I'm the opposite. I want to cast a Blood Moon on turn 1 and watch my opponent just scoop up their cards before they even play their first land drop. Those I want it to happen quickly. It's over with fast.
I guess.
Wait, quick tangent. What is worse, Drown Yard control or Teferi control?
What is worse? I mean, I'll tell
worse?
you. I love that you brought that up because literally right in front of me is my Nephalia Drown Yard because I'm shuffling my Lazav deck. I'm staring at it right now. I love that card. It was a slower win condition, so it was even more fun.
I think it depends on if Nexus of Fate is involved. I think the part that makes Teferi deck so miserable is the Nexus loop. So I think if you're playing a non-Nexus deck, then I would probably go with Drown Yard. But I think you have to sit there and hope your opponent whiffs on their, like, whatever, 95%er that they're going to keep comboing off for a bunch of turns. Those are the games that are miserable because you have just enough chance that you can't really scoop in good conscience because you're like, there is a chance that this, like, goes wrong and they don't hit the fog or they don't hit the Nexus. So you can't really just concede because you have, like, a small percentage chance of winning. So I think Nexus Teferi decks worse than Drown Yard. Non-Nexus Teferi decks, Drown Yard's probably more miserable.
I feel Nexus. Drown Yard is worse because Drown Yard, there's some hope. You're like, okay, what if you're holding 4 lands in hand, right? But once they start looping Nexus, you kind of like F6'd. So you're just watching them do their thing, but you're not really having to do anything. You're not taking any turns. You're not thinking. You're not playing the game, right? So it's just like, okay, I'm out. Whereas like Drown Yard, every turn you're like, okay, now if he has 2 counter spells and I sequence my threats like this, I might be able to break through his lock long enough to kill him. The reality is, like, no, he's got you stone cold locked, and you have no idea, right? At least Nexus, like, you're not taking a turn. You're like, no thoughts here. Just like F6, go. Are you doing it or not?
Yeah. I guess if you think of it that way, yeah, I think Drown Yard might be worse. Because it's not like I have this like crazy loop where I take another turn and then I just get to keep doing that and then like Nephalia Drown Yarding you. I'm just doing it slowly at the end of your turn, like even worse. It's just like I have a lock, but I'm not doing it fast. I'm just I'll mill you. All right, your turn. Or like back to my turn. Okay, cool. You play something, I'll kill it. All right, I'll mill you. Your turn.
All right. Back to Commander. Worst color in Commander.
Oh, for me, I mean, I think I think green is a color I never play. I don't think if it's the worst color. Why? It's a color I never play. Usually, like if I had to, like if I were to
spend money. Carnage Tyrant? Why do you not play green?
Carnage Tyrant has followed me around since forever. No, like I don't know why. I just something about green cards don't appeal to me, and they never. It's like never like I'm like oh yeah. Except for Garruk Apex Predator, but that like that's about it. Like I think that's my least played color, but the weakest color. Oh. Is it blue? I don't want to say blue because I love blue, but like, is it blue?
I would snap off white. I think white is the worst, red is second worst, and then green, black are pretty good, and blue is number 1. That would be my ranking of power level.
I think red is probably the worst for me. I like white better
worse
than red.
Than white?
Yeah, I would play white. White has legitimate creatures. White has kind of card draw, but it can remove enchantments, artifacts. It has the wraths, and it has usually pretty good creatures. Red kind of has bad creatures, like bad wraths, like bad card draw. Like I don't know, it doesn't do anything. But my goal for this season of Commander Clash is to play more red, to make sure I understand red more. But like I always shy away from red, and when I play red, it's usually like an incidental color, right? Like it's like Jund or something where it's like part of some color package as opposed to, I think I need red in my deck.
I think my ranking is literally just how easy it is to draw cards with a color. Now that I think about it, I think it's just
blue is number 1
it is to draw cards, the lower it ranks.
I think red does give us like a lot of wheel effects, and I do love wheel effects.
Yeah, that's
like the terrible card draw. You got to draw everyone else cards too, right?
Yeah, but at the same time, like as you said, right? People want to have fun, And
Yeah.
and sometimes their fun comes from like pet cards, like and when you watch them throw away their pet cards, that's a lot of fun.
Are we enabling them or are we not enabling them? What are we doing, Chris?
I mean, you could still lose. Like, let's say their pet card is, I don't know, the 1/1 that costs like 9 or 8 mana to unmorph. Okay, let's just say that's their favorite thing. And then you draw them into their combo and then you lose. Whatever. But you watch their favorite card leave their hands. It's the message.
I think, speaking of that, one of my favorite moments on Commander Clash, I think, was the game where Tomer built Burning Vengeance. And I don't remember who it was. They played like a Alter the Brood or some horrible mill spell. And it was on turn 1, the top card of his deck, and it got milled over like on turn 1. And that was what he had no way to recur it. And that was the only thing his deck was trying to do.
And was that not like humorous and enjoyable?
It was hilarious. It was so funny.
See, there you go. That's why wheel effects are great.
Speaking of which, what do you think about kind of like these mill effects? These like mill effects that don't have a point, like say Alter the Brood before you assemble your combo, for disrupting other people's combos. Because in Commander, there is no redundancy, right? You have like one combo piece, and if it gets milled over, that combo is forever gone.
I think when I build Commander decks, I consider that possibility. Like, I think for me, it's really important to have ways to get things back from the graveyard, especially if I'm a combo deck. So, it doesn't really bother me too much because I build decks with that possibility in mind. And I think you probably should too, especially if you're playing a combo deck. Like, you should plan on your combo piece getting killed or milled or whatever, because that's a realistic possibility. So if you're playing a combo and don't have any way to get it back, I think it's your fault for not building your deck very well.
What if you're in a color that you can't get it back, like red?
Splash into green for Eternal Witness.
Hope someone skull winders it back for you.
I think, I mean, I have Elixir of Immortality in almost all my decks, I think, just for fun. As I said, pet cards, right? I'm like, ooh, I love that card when it was in Standard, so I want to play it in EDH. So I have ways to get cards back also in like Snapcaster Mage if I'm not going budget and stuff like that. So, yeah, I definitely build with the thought of finding a way to get cards back in mind, or in the event that I lose cards all the time in mind.
All right. So we know what the answer to this question is. Okay. But I want your opinion on it though, because I violate this like all the time. Should you make your deck focused with like one cool theme? So like, you know, say you have a combo or you have a synergy you want. So should you go all in on that? Or do you do what I do and just randomly add like 2-card combo packages and try to jam them all in your deck because they're sweet? And then therefore your deck is like totally not focused and like does not work properly.
I think that it's okay to slot combos into your deck if it works with your theme, but the Tomer technique where it's like, I'm just going to play Kiki Jiki combo. No matter if I have red and blue in my deck, I'm comboing you with Kiki. Like, that's not really my style.
He's not even here to defend himself.
Tomer's not even here.
I think if you slot in the combo,
he knows that.
It's fine. I mean, I don't know. If does Tomer actually do that though? Does he just go, oh, I'm going to just throw Kiki Jiki? Actually, hold on. I think that's true.
Tomer has got the Kiki win many times from a non like.
I'm going to do all this, but then I won with Kiki Jiki.
He's like, I'm an artifact deck. I don't have, you know, I only have one combo. And you're like, okay, that must be some weird artifact combo. It's like, no, it's Kiki Jiki. I actually really dislike the instant win cards, and I actually go out of my way to remove from my deck now. So like I never play like Rise of the Dark Realms and what is the 1-mana black one? The Ascension, Blood Chief's Ascension.
Blood Chief's Ascension.
Oh, Blood Chief's
that thing's like an auto win, right? Like if you play that thing and someone doesn't remove it, you pretty much win. So I try not to include those cards unless it's on theme, because I feel like, you know, if you stumble into an off-theme win, then fine. But when you put these cards in your deck, you're kind of explicitly saying, like, yeah, I want to win without my theme. So, I never put those cards in. You know, even if it like really fixes my deck, you know, like Skeleton Tribal with some Rise of the Dark Realms might actually win, right? But I'm like, did I really do what I set out to do here? I don't know.
Skeleton enthusiast Richard.
It's so bad. I actually hate skeletons so much because they always betray me. They're such a bad tribe.
They're not even bad enough. Like, how are they gonna betray you? They're not good enough to do anything.
You're like, okay, I have all these skeletons. I have all my regeneration mana up. I'm good to go. And then people are like, damnation. And you're like, seriously, dude? Like, the one ability my like 3 mana 1/1 has, and like it doesn't even work. Like, why are skeletons so bad?
I think, like, so example, like right now I have a Lazav deck, right? And I think I have the Phage, like, you know, I have Phage the Untouchable. And I also have things like Blighted Agent and Invisible Stalker and, you know, like a Rogue's Passage, right? You can see what's going on here. Is that considered like to be, I don't know, rude, I guess, in a weird way? Is that weird to ask? I'm trying to get some moral help here from EDH because I don't know, maybe my moral compass in EDH
So is the
isn't
question
the best.
more is it okay to kill someone with infect?
Yeah, I guess. It is.
I have always very much frowned upon Infect personally, and I feel like most of the people who have done Commander Clash over the years have felt the same way. They really should just change the rules in Commander. That's my beef. It should take 20 Infect, I think, to kill someone in Commander, similarly to take account for the higher starting life total. So I feel like Infect breaks the spirit of the format because it only takes 10 Infect.
But it's not Infect. See, like, I agree. I agree. I think Infect should be changed. But I'm not killing you with Infect, but it's like Infect, right? Because I mean, Phage is in the graveyard. Lazav is going to become unblockable, and then before damage, Lazav becomes Phage.
Yeah, Phage is fine. I think that's fine.
Like, yeah, okay.
I think that's fine too.
Okay, cool. That's all I'd ask.
Next question, as I think furiously.
Think furiously.
I don't know what else. What else can we talk about?
We actually might want to do fishmail at some point. We're like 50 minutes into our podcast already.
No, one more, Seth, for the filthy casuals. Right, what is the ultimate? What is the ultimate Commander topic? All right, Sol Ring, banned or not banned?
It is. Yes, it should be banned. It 100% should be banned. The only argument I can see against banning it, and I am sympathetic of it, is the brainstorm argument for Legacy, where it's. Even though it should be banned, it's so synonymous with the format that if you banned it, the format wouldn't be the format, essentially. I could see that argument for keeping Sol Ring, but on power level alone, 100% it should be banned.
Yeah, get it out of here. Like, the the things that happen, like, oh, well, I guess I'll turn 2 play Thran Dynamo, and it's like, and that's
fine.
small. That's like thinking small, right? Like, there's a lot more you can do than just play a Thran Dynamo on 2, but.
So if I asked you, do you want 2 extra mana at the cost of 3 enemies, would you always take it?
Yes.
On turn 1, yeah.
Yes.
I don't know if I would always take it. Like, I don't know. Like, there's a real downside to it. You suddenly have 3 enemies and they're gunning for you.
Yeah, right? But they're doing everything slower than you are, so whatever, you're fine.
but it's not though, right? Combined, they have more mana than you, right? Like, combined, they have more mana to throw against you. So I don't know that it actually okay, if everyone is durdling around and they all have 6 drops in hand and you Sol Ring, okay, that's bad. But if they have anything reasonable, if they're actually curving out, I feel like it just gets worse for you over time, right? Like, on turn 3, they now have 3 times your mana or whatever, and now you're going to start feeling the pain, right? So I don't know. It's very rare that someone plays Sol Ring and just runs away with the game. Like, it does happen.
Do you think other people actually arch enemy the person that plays a Sol Ring? Because I don't know if that's been my experience. Like, sure, you're like, oh, that sucks that they have way more mana than me, but most games I've seen with Sol Ring don't involve the 3 players be like, all right, we just got to kill a person with Sol Ring. It's not like a Prime Speaker Vanafear or whatever. Like, I win the game Commander. It's kind of like, oh, well, yeah, you're playing big stuff and probably gonna win, but I'm gonna play my Signets over here and hope for the best.
I guess that's
also
true.
Because sometimes you're kind of forced to. Like, what can you do, right? I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen it either. I haven't seen anyone go, let's kill the person with a soul ring. And I guess because every time I've had soul ring personally, it's always just, well, I have a soul ring, I have all this mana, but I'm doing nothing. All right, your turn.
Yeah,
I think it just leads to non-games. That's been my experience. Is it doesn't always lead to non-games, but we definitely have had games where someone goes like Soul Ring, Mana Crypt, whatever, plays. I can't remember. What was the big demon commander that we played that happened with?
Nixilis?
And I just
there's lots of demons.
the Sack to Tutor one, Razaketh.
Oh,
I think.
yeah, okay. Or is it that one a Rune Scarred?
I think it was Razaketh because it was a commander.
Oh yeah, commander.
Just kind of
yeah.
ran away with the game on turn 4 or whatever because of it. So I don't know. I think it just makes the games way too swingy for my taste. Because you feel so far behind. Like if one person has Soul Ring and no one else does, you feel really far behind. But there's not a whole lot you can do about it on turn 1 or turn 2. So you often stay behind for the rest of the game.
But is it that much worse if someone like cultivates or has like a mana rock on turn 2 and you have nothing? Like I feel like they're kind of the same.
Gets around land destruction, Richard. Gets around land destruction.
I understand you get accelerated one turn earlier and it's more acceleration, but I don't know. There's all like you have so many buddies at the table. You have so many buddies at the table.
I will say this. I think Black Lotus would be way fairer in Commander than Soul Ring. I would rather have Black Lotus be unbanned than have Soul Ring be part of the format.
That's probably correct.
That's not even like a hot take or anything. I kind of agree with that too. It's
Can you imagine going to a new player and be like, I see you have a Black Lotus there. It's so bad. I'll trade you the Soul Ring. Actually, it's worse because like they like I'll trade you this like Crater Hoof Behemoth. Look how big it is, right? Like
they'd probably snap it off too.
If you talk to me in like I guess like middle school, I would have done that. I would 100%. Yeah, it's a big 8/8. Why wouldn't I?
I've definitely heard of people who traded like their Shivan Dragons for Black Lotuses back in the day and vice versa. So
well, back in the day, though, Shivan Dragon was like the finisher though, so that was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And like it's a dragon. That's sweet, right? Like what does this do, right?
That's the whole point of Magic. I didn't play Magic to play with flowers or whatever. Like
yeah.
I'm here to cast dragons.
I don't want no metallic flower. Give me that dragon. That's But
is there such thing as a Black Lotus like in real life?
Like a car.
Like a lotus. Like a lotus is a real flower,
lotus
right?
Is a real.
But is there a Black Lotus? Is that like a real
car.
thing? No, what?
Yeah,
no, not a car. No, not the car. The flower.
The car.
Separate question. Okay, yeah.
Google is not being helpful. It's all Magic results. So
some botanist somewhere, please chime in. Send me a Black Lotus.
How many Black
actual
Lotuses
flower.
are there? What does Black Lotus flower mean? Why is Black Lotus so expensive? All right, well, yeah, you're right.
I feel bad for the Lotus enthusiast who's like trying to find like a black model of his card. He's like, what are these stupid cards that keep showing up on Google?
It's more expensive than my car. Actually, that's not true, but whatever. Also, hold on 1 second, just to dial it slightly back, that question you asked right before this, Richard. I also think it's okay to be on. I think it is cool when you build your deck on theme. Like I had posted a Twitter question, right? It's like I have both Shadow Mage Infiltrators, right? I have a foil version of the old Odyssey one and then the new one. Now everyone's like, "Oh, easy, dude. Just it's always the Odyssey one." And like, but hold. Why is no one thinking about how my whole deck is Dimir? So I want everything to look Dimir. And the new Shadow Mage Infiltrator, though this is the Shadow Mage Infiltrator I've had since middle school, the new one looks more like Dimir. So I sometimes will build a deck where everything at least looks the same. It all looks like on theme with the deck too, visually. Just saying. I just remember that now. It's like a 5-minute late response.
Krim, you're just wrong.
Okay. All right. Cool.
You killed Johnny Magic.
I did not kill Johnny Magic. I still appreciate Johnny Magic, but dude, like Shadow Mage Infiltrator from Modern Masters looks like how Dimir looks now.
But like Johnny Finkel like transcends any theme restrictions. He's like,
Oh.
it's like, I don't know. I actually really hate that they removed, like, all of them are on theme, right? Like all of the invitational players, they're like, what is this dude doing on a Magic card? This is like totally breaking the immersion. Let us replace it with like some new art, right? So Solemn gets new art, Shadow Mage gets new art, everyone gets new art. And then, I don't know, it kind of like removes the coolness of the invitational card. It should have been written in the contract. Like, we will use your likeness in this card and we will never change the art. Right? You are forever this person.
Or they just like update it with their current art, so it's like 50-year-old John Finkel or whatever. Whenever it's reprinted, they update the portrait.
Oh my god, that would be so cool. Like, you get like the new Shadow Mage Infiltrator is like what Finkel looks like today. That would be so sick.
Yeah, just like keep updating. Also, Black Lotus is not real. I have confirmed, according to Google, it's a fictional flower.
Aw.
Lame.
Lotuses are real, but
Yep.
Black Lotuses are fictional.
All right.
Or they haven't been discovered yet. Just saying.
Now that we know that Krim is a John Finkel hater.
I still love It's just on theme, dude. Like, look at the new one looks so much like a Dimir card.
That is true.
That's my only argument. That is my only defense.
What if
Like,
you talk to John Finkel and you're like, what guild do you associate yourself with? And he's like, Dimir, bro. I'm like, Lazav is my jam. Now which card would you use?
if Johnny Magic himself reaches out to me and says that he is Dimir, and for me to just be like, no, dude, there's only my invitational, like, then, okay, all right. Okay. Then I am wrong, and I will then accept it.
All right. So with that being said, let's go to fishmail. So if you have questions, send them to @MDGGoldfish with the hashtag MDGFishmail, and we'll get to your question on air. This one is for Krim. J. Hoviskas. So I know what a meme is. I know what a deck is. What is a meme deck?
Oh boy. So a meme deck usually is going to be something that, like let's just, I'll give you a card for example. Simic Ascendancy. You're probably, it's not really a good, like that great of a card, unless, the Pro Tour proves me wrong or something and it takes over by storm. But, like, it's usually a deck that revolves around some kind of really, really janky or ridiculous idea that, like you're going into, like, I'm probably not going to win a lot of games, but like, when I do, I'm doing it with style. And it's just funny. It's like humorous when you win. For me, that's what a meme deck is. Seth, do you?
I think that meme deck is what I often call Jank Deck or a Jank Deck. I think it means basically the same thing. Being built around like a janky card, a meme card. So I think I would use those two interchangeably.
Yep.
All right. Captain WoW 26. Favorite fetch land or favorite land in general?
Polluted Delta
Ooh.
is my favorite fetch land.
Probably for fetch lands, probably Flooded Strand? Land in general, strip mine though.
Land in general, probably Watery Grave, just because.
So you gotta have something to fetch up.
Yeah, like, let's not be ridiculous. Like, they don't call me Watery Dave for no reason. I don't know. Like, that's not true at all. No one calls me that.
Fetch lands. I like Marsh Flats. Favorite land in general? Thespian Stage.
So true. I've never seen anyone love Thespian Stage more than Richard.
It's so good. 11 Vicious. What about a blue goblin that's 2 blue, 2/2, haste, tap. Each player may play a card from their hand for free. Creature is showy telly. Too good for modern.
That
was way too good.
Card. Also a blue goblin.
Yeah, blue goblin's
the blue
hilarious.
Goblin part cracks me up.
I think haste just makes it like it's not even relevant that it's a creature. Like, what is the point of being a creature if it has haste? It's like somehow better. It blocks, right? Like,
it sounds like it could be a good, like, unstable card. It sounds funny, but I don't know if it would actually be good for modern.
it's actually way better than, because now it's instant speed show and tell. So like, you might drop an Emrakul or something and they might Liliana you, but now you can wait till the end of their turn to do it.
So.
Yeah, and you have showy telly to sacrifice to Liliana.
Yeah, you can block. There's like all kinds of weirdness. This somehow just made it a lot better.
That's definitely absurdly broken. I don't. Oh Oh, that is really broken.
All right, Captain Wild 26. Should Nexus of Fate be banned in Standard?
Yes.
What is our take on this now? Yes?
Yes.
Seth?
In best of one, but
in,
no.
In yes of one. It doesn't matter. Yes of all. Like yes across the board. What?
Not in best of three. That's my take. I think best of one, yes. Best of three, no. And also, I kind of hope it happens because, oh man, it's going to be so funny when the buy a box promo that they made so it wouldn't be good enough to be played in Standard actually has to get banned in Standard. Oh, I've been writing that tweet in my head for like the last month.
Seth's been revising that tweet for like hours.
It's in his drafts. It's been his drafts and
it's
it's
gonna be
dated
so
back
good.
since its reveal.
All right. JRed17, an on-theme question for this week. What if a spell could be your commander? As an instant or sorcery, similarly pay 2 more for each time you cast it. What would be your spellmander?
Cruel Ultimatum.
Oh, that's a good choice. I don't know. Maybe like Cryptic Command?
Ooh. I feel like a 1 mana, like a swords or something would probably be best, but then you're playing mono white and it's a swords. I want like a wrath that draws cards, like a Decree of Pain. Oh, you know what would be good?
Though,
Blasphemous Act. Blasphemous Act.
Oh, that would be a sweet one.
I'm surprised Crim didn't go with Cyclonic Rift here. This would have been.
No. It's Commander. I want to have fun. And I think Cruel Ultimatum just constantly over and over is a lot of fun.
Tarvin Nicholas. What if WotC had a deck building challenge with cash prizes at Mythic events and Magic Fest? E.g., it's a modern event, and you get money if you have a winning record with a deck that has 4 Hedron alignments.
I think that could be really cool. I know they actually do this in Vintage, where they have a prize for the person who does best without playing any Power 9 cards in their deck. Sort of like a budget challenge, almost. So even if you don't make the top 8, if you're the highest performing person without Power 9, you still get a prize. So I think that could be pretty interesting to have like a side challenge and a prize for certain things like that.
All right. Last question. Rob Condon, with the discussion of banning Nexus, do you think there will be a wildcard reimbursement on Arena? If the ban is an all-standard, not just best of one, could they, when Moto and Paper are left out to dry?
I think there would definitely be a wildcard reimbursement, although I don't know if that's really all that comforting, because if you ban Nexus, you're not just losing Nexus, your Nexus deck is losing a lot of playability as well, and you're probably not going to get anything for all the other wild cards you spent to build a deck that needs Nexus to be functional.
Yeah, I feel like they need to reimburse, but they either may not, period, or they may give you like 50 gems, or you know whatever it is for getting like a duplicate mythic. So
didn't they already just do reimburse? This, though? Didn't they already do, like, there was a ban, right? Because I remember in closed beta, right? Or was it closed? No, it's like...
I think it was back at the very beginning of closed beta, there was a ban, and we can't remember. Did they just give you wild cards?
I think we gave...
Did we even have wild cards then?
I think so, yeah. It was just like we got 4 rare wild cards or whatever it was, I think. I'm pretty sure.
That would be my most likely prediction, is they're just like, all right, you can't play those. You get 4 mythic wild cards to replace them. And call it a day.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think that was the case. I don't remember. It's been a minute, oddly enough.
That sounds right to me, too.
Yeah, because I remember there was some kind of banning, and then I remember I think we did get wildcards, actually. I think so. But yeah, like, I guess if they ban Nexus, then you just go to the Wilderness Reclamation decks. Like, as in, like, it's like the teamer ones, so, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. No, I guess that's true. Your cards probably still have some value. Like, there's a lot of good cards in those decks. Wilderness Reclamation, which we're running long, so I can't get into this, but God, is that card busted. I've been playing it in Modern, and it's even busted in Modern. It's so insane. So, yeah, interesting.
All right. Thank you to everyone who cited in their fish mail this week. If you have questions, send them at MTG Goldfish with the hashtag MTG Fishmail, and we'll get to your questions on air.
And I think that brings us to the end of our casual podcast, Commander Podcast, episode 210. So, Richard, Krim, thanks for hanging out. Thanks to everyone for listening. Thanks again to Spikes Academy for supporting the show. You can get 10% off over at spikesacademy.com with the code Goldfish. So, until next week, This is the crew signing out.